Welcome to round 3 here at Grand Prix Pittsburgh. I'm Ray Bartholdi in the booth, joined by Andrew Brown of the playtest team, Jarvis Yu on black-red aggro versus Ealy on white-blue historic.
Yeah.
Okay, so what is this deck, Andrew?
So this is, Ealy brought a really cool deck. I'm really excited to watch this. He's got 3 copies of Karn's Temporal Sundering in his deck, along with a bunch of legends. So I'm looking at the deck list right now. There's 2 Baird, Steward of Argive, 2 Baral, Chief of Compliance, 2 Lyra Dongbringer, 3 Karn, 3 Teferi. Yeah, this is quite the historic deck he has here.
So let me just ask you this question. Why would you bring this as opposed to just bringing your classic white-blue Teferi or, just something that's more traditional?
Yeah, I think Ealy's trying to just leverage his skill as a player, and also just, right now people think the metagame is so solved right now. Like, okay, I know all the decks I'm going to play against, but, he's a strong player. He can surprise people. There's 2 different angles that he's kind of attacking from, and, as you can see here, he's already playing some strong cards here in History of Benalia. So, yeah, I'm excited to see what his deck can do.
Jarvis Yu here has Akari Zev in play, and here's a Chandra coming in. But History of Benalia has got to be one that kind of raises Jarvis Yu's eyebrow a little bit, because normally we don't see it until the sideboard from these colors.
Right. I mean, there is the regular kind of blue-white historic deck that plays like Wrath Capuchin, and it tries to play this game where you're like, okay, do I have Wrath? Do I have Settle the Wreckage? You have to kind of play around what I'm doing. But it looks like Ealy's deck is more kind of like, I'm going to tap out with some threats and then play really big spells.
All right, so History of Benalia here ticking up to Chapter 2. Meanwhile, Jarvis doing what Red-Black does, which is have a Chandra in play, Kari Zev, and a Scrap Heap Scrounger. And here we're going to see an attack from the Knight at Chandra, knocking her down to 3.
Yeah, pretty just, I would say, average draw from Jarvis. He had Kari Zev on 2 into Cycle Land and into Chandra, Mana, Scrap Heap Scrounger, which isn't the strongest start, but, it's serviceable. So, awesome. We see Baird, Steward of Argive. So this is one of my favorite legends to play in Limited, because it's basically a ghostly prison for 1.
Yes.
So all their creatures have to pay an extra 1.
Pay the tax.
Pay the tax. Pay the Steward.
And it's got Vigilance as well.
Yep.
And it looks like Jarvis Yu is going to respect Baird. Down it goes. Chandra with it. Ooh, Glorybringer hits the table here for Jarvis Yu, keeping the pressure on.
Yeah, it's interesting to see if he'll actually exert this Glorybringer, because if he doesn't, then Ealy has a pretty nice double block on Kari Zev.
Yep, sure enough, he's going to pull it halfway out of the sleeve, indicating an exert. One of the Knight tokens is going to fall down, and and Ealy just doesn't have any good options here.
Yeah, I think he's going to have to just kind of block the Scrap Heap Scrounger as much as that's normally not a play that feels very good. But luckily, Jarvis doesn't have any other creatures in the graveyard, so this Scrap Heap Scrounger coming back doesn't seem like it's going to happen in the near future. And
here's one of the saddest things that can happen in Magic, Chapter 3 on your History of Benalia for no value.
Tried his best.
I mean, I guess it made a couple of nights that Jarvis had to deal with. I'll look at it on the bright side here. Ealy already down to 10 following that attack from Jarvis. Another History of Benalia here will create another Knight.
And I'm looking at Ealy's deck list right now. He has 3 copies of Seal Away. And
there's one of them.
Oh, speak of the devil. And 3 copies of Aether Meltdown, too, which is pretty interesting.
And Kari Zev did get sealed away there.
Also, Ealy playing the Seal Away on the Kari Zev also indicates that he might have another Seal Away for the Glorybringer.
Rekindling Phoenix here for Jarvis.
And yet another threat that kind of demands a Seal Away hitting the battlefield.
And that's the thing with these black-red decks. They're capable of going so big, which is kind of not a hallmark we're used to seeing of red decks. But Glorybringer, Rekindling Phoenix, that Chandra. Yeah.
It's actually pretty funny. Internally, we kind of call this deck 4-drop Tribal, because it plays so many powerful 4-mana cards like Hazaret, Rekindling Phoenix, and Chandra, Torch of Defiance.
It was kind of cool Wyatt Darby winning the Pro Tour with mono red. The reason he said he didn't want to include black is because he said, when I hit 4, I want all of my lands to be untapped when they come to the battlefield.
Right.
All right, here's Teferi from Ealy Cassis, and we're going to tuck our Phoenix to the 3rd card down with that minus ability.
Yeah, I think I like this play. Kind of forces Jarvis to spend his entire Glorybringer attack attacking the Teferi. And also that History of Benalia going to be popping next turn, so it's possible that Ealy could actually just turn the corner here. With like really swingy cards in his deck, like Karn's Temporal Sundering, like he can kind of change who the aggressor is.
Goblin Chain Whirler, however, is going to do Glorybringer's work for it, dealing 1 to that Teferi.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see if Jarvis actually goes for the Exert here. I don't think he should.
Doesn't look like he does.
Because this Chain Whirler checks the Knights as they are 4/3s, and the Chain Whirler has first strike.
All right, Chapter 3, History of Benalia will pump up those Knights. 3 cards left in hand for Ealy here. See if he can deal with either of these creatures from Jarvis U. Still at 18 life to Ealy's 5.
Yeah, something like Lyra Dawnbringer is pretty much what he wants here. He has 2 copies in his deck. I could also see him wanting a Settle the Wreckage too.
All right, we're going to Field of Ruin here for Ealy Cassis. Find some basics to try and take, make sure that he's going to find a mountain. So no swamps in U's deck.
Yeah, I would imagine so. Or Jarvis could just have the swamp in his hand that he could be holding. But he also has those 2 Aether Hubs with 2 energy, so he can bring back his Scrounger if there were any creatures left in the graveyard, but there are not currently.
There's Karn for Cassis. We're going to plus.
Ooh, the face down plus, I like it.
I know. All right, so we've got a Teferi and a History. Teferi is going to be exiled with a silver counter on it underneath Karn, and History of Benalia back into Ealy's hand.
Yeah, so it looked like Ealy used that Field of Ruin to... that is another Glorybringer.
Glorybringer off the top will seal the deal. Jarvis U taking down game 1 here versus Ealy Cassis. Black-red aggro versus white-blue historic. And we mentioned it at the top of this match. Karn's Temporal Sundering in Eli's list.
3's Karn Temporal Sundering. But, as we look to the sideboard, I see that Ealy has Authority of the Consuls, Invoke the Divine, Wrath Capuchin, Walking Ballista. These are cards he might want to bring in. Jarvis actually didn't show any Heart of Kieran in the first game, so he might not want to bring in the Invoke the Divine. And then looking at Jarvis's sideboard, he's got just some more hallmark threats like Angrath, more Chandra, and cards that go long like Argwell's Bloodfast and Eldest Reborn. So it'll be interesting to see if Jarvis goes bigger or he goes smaller with cards like Duress.
So I guess my question is about the card that I'm so interested in, Karn's Temporal Sundering. I mean, you get to take an extra turn. So how is Ealy's deck set up to best kind of abuse this card? Is it using something like History of Benalia to kind of tick your way through the chapters and be able to swing sooner?
Yeah, I think, as I mentioned earlier, he's kind of like this tap-out control deck where, he's just trying to resolve a bunch of big threats every single turn and then use Karn's Temporal Sundering to just, seal the deal, essentially. And Karn's Temporal Sundering, awesome with Baral, Chief of Compliance. One of the...
Yes!
As Baral makes spells cheaper,
I'd say.
Karn's Temporal Sundering can cost 5 mana, which, as we all know, 5 mana Time Walks are powerful cards. So that can really set him far ahead.
Wow, 2 copies of Baral, Chief of Compliance in Ealy's list.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, a Baral and Brawl was a staple for a while.
Yeah, exactly.
Too good, as we say.
Yeah. And just looking at his deck list, too, I think it's really cool that he's actually playing 0 Wrath Capuchin in his main deck.
Yeah.
Because normally that is the kind of
what you'd expect.
The dilemma that deck puts you in is do I attack into the flash 3/3 or do I attack and get Settle the Wreckage? So the fact that he only has one of them really puts his opponent in a tough spot.
Do you think he's going to bring in cards like Wrath in this matchup?
I don't think so. Jarvis has a Braid, Lightning. He doesn't have Lightning Strike, but he has Unlicensed Disintegration. Yeah, just a lot of easy removal where he can trade up in mana, which is what you don't want when you're playing Wrath Caption.
In Limited, I'm always 100% sure if my opponent has white and blue mana available and 4 mana that they are going to flash a Raffin at me. I've been burned too many times, Andrew. Too many times.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's a great card. I love it.
Yeah. At one point in the process, too, Wrath Caption was actually 3 mana and a 2/2.
Oh.
Yeah.
No, I like him better as a 3/3.
Oh, you like him better as a 3/3? Okay, sure.
I mean, it's probably better the other way.
Well, I'm just collecting feedback, so let me know if you have anything you want to tell me.
Let Andrew Brown know. What do you think of his cards?
Yeah, exactly. But no, yeah, we're if you see me at a GP or whatever or at the Pro Tour, I'm always happy to listen to feedback, and like I enjoy improving at making Magic cards, and I'm sure everybody in R&D does too as well.
It's really excellent to see you out here interacting with people and, like you said, getting feedback and having Play Design Team be a thing.
Yeah.
Full force now.
Yeah, exactly. Plus, I get to see my friends Jarvis play.
All right, Bomat Courier for Jarvis U gets in for 1, knocking Ealy down to 19. But there he is, Baral, Chief of Compliance.
Yeah, the natural predator to the Bomat Courier.
Yes, that's true. In the food chain.
Yeah.
There you get a look at Brawl. Instant sorcery spells you cast cost 1 less to cast.
Mm-hmm. Looks like a fairly easy block on Ravagan here, because Ealy is representing, he has Syncopate in his deck. He has possibly Negate post board.
All right, there's a Seal Away, Kari Zev.
Mm-hmm. Oh, man, it would be savage if he plays Chain Whirler and then
Oh,
he
and
syncopates
it.
it.
Oh, dang.
Oh, man,
that would have been cool.
That would have been awesome.
Kari Zev, number 2, as well as another Bomat Courier there for Jarvis U. Back over to Ealy Cassis. White-blue historic deck. Baral, Chief of Compliance in play. Looks like he's just going to pass the turn back over to Jarvis.
Yeah, another casual play a land pass from the blue-white deck.
No big deal. Just go. So terrifying. Speaking as someone who likes to attack with creatures. Kari Zev once again hitting the red zone here for Jarvis. Baral looks like he's just might be interested in blocking that monkey token.
Yep. Baral is not a fan of the monkey business.
I'll give that one a B-.
Oh, it's better than I thought.
Rekindling Phoenix for Jarvis here, and we're going to see if we can
get a Syncopate? No
nope.
Syncopate.
Just a cycle for Ealy. There's a look at Rekindling Phoenix. Beautiful art.
Yeah, and right now, Ealy actually can cast Karn's Temporal Sundering, as the Baral makes it cost 1 less.
Dang, just pass the turn back.
Another casual, your turn.
I suppose Karn's Temporal Sundering would not be particularly good right now anyway.
Yeah, he doesn't really have a good way to leverage it right now. Like, let's say he had a Lyra Dawnbringer in play, that would be like a much bigger swing. But he's representing Settle the Wreckage here, or Seal Away, so many different things that Jarvis has to play around.
And Jarvis here just swings on in, and there it is, Settle the Wreckage.
Yeah, very smart of Ealy to wait to use Settle while the Ravagan triggers on the stack, so that Jarvis doesn't get to have an extra land in play. And then he just gets an easy block on Ravagan with the Baral.
And, by the way, it only costs 3 thanks to Brawl.
Yep. And it looks like Jarvis does have 1 swamp in his deck.
There it is. And that's interesting, too, they were talking about this a little bit last round. As the red deck, do you just play around to Settle the Wreckage, or can you say, well, that's not a way I'm ever going to win the game?
Mm-hmm. I mean, it really depends on the texture of your hand. Like, Jarvis was clearly okay with that happening because he gets to follow up with Chandra here.
Right.
Yeah, and I don't know what he's going to do with it here. Oh, it looks like he has a Cut to Ribbons in hand, so I kind of like up for mana and then target the Baral. Oh, wow, he's just going after the Baral. Oh, very cool.
Oh, wow. There's an Invoke the Divine from Ealy Cassis, gain some 4 life and deal with that Bomat Courier. So Chandra will minus on that Baral.
Yeah, and actually looking at Jarvis's main deck, he actually does not have Heart of Kieran in his deck, so this Invoke the Divine, not too many targets.
And there was a Karn from Ealy Cassis, going to take up, finds a Teferi, and pass the turn back.
Yeah, it also looks like Jarvis has an Angrath the Flame Chained in his hand, too.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, Angrath, one of those awesome sideboard threats you can bring in that has utility in most matchups, because, like, against a control deck, you want them to discard cards, and against, like, mirrors or aggro decks, you can just -2 kind of eliminate one of their threats.
All right, Chandra's going to find herself there. And here comes Angrath the Flame Chain for Jarvis U.
Ooh.
How about a negate from Ealy Cassis?
That was a very timely negate. Yeah, so after all said and done here, the negate, I think, swung the game in favor of Ealy, because he now gets to resolve this Teferi. He gets to draw a card, untap some lands, and then, you know, just represent more threats.
All right, so nothing but Planeswalkers and a Bomat Courier in play currently.
Yeah, and Jarvis's hand does not look very well suited to fight these Planeswalkers, as I think his hand is Abrade, Unlicensed Disintegration, and Cut to Ribbons.
Yeah, he's able to find a Soul Scar Mage off of that Chandra to put into play, but the red deck just seems kind of, once you've got not only one but two Planeswalkers that you've stuck, it's a little difficult.
Yeah.
All right, so Bomat Courier here getting in the attack. Going face.
Yeah, I guess that is the place for Jarvis this time.
The face is the place.
Yeah, after no follow-up, besides only the Soul Scar Mage, I really like Ealy's spot here.
Wow, another Teferi here, found from the Karn Plus.
Yeah, it seems like he now has enough resources to kind of lock up the game here. He's essentially drawing 3 cards per turn with his Planeswalkers.
Is that good?
Generally, that's pretty good,
Okay,
I would say.
Okay, great.
And he's going to float some mana, untap it with Teferi, and then pass on to Jarvis.
So were you expecting, I imagine you were, Teferi to make such a splash in Standard?
Oh, did I expect Teferi to be a strong Standard card? Yes, yes, I did. Yes, I did.
Makes sense.
Yeah. You know, we intended Teferi to work with cards like Seal Away, you know, encourage you to play 2 mana spells that not exactly are catch-all, but, you know, catch some amount of cards if you play them right, or they line up well against your opponent's threats. So I'm talking about cards like Negate, Essence Scatter, Seal Away. They're not generic catch-all answers, but they are kind of specific.
Here's a Syncopate from Ealy Cassis, Bomat Courier, and Soul Scar Mage. Continuing to put up a fight, though, from Jarvis U.
Yeah, and
he's just going to cash it in. 3 cards back into hand, putting the Cut to Ribbons down there in the graveyard.
Yeah, that's Cut to Ribbons it might offer Jarvis another angle to try and steal this game from Ealy, because as we saw, like, his Bomat Courier was only going face. So I think he's content to just ignore these Planeswalkers and then just try to finish the game with a huge Cut to Ribbons. And the Chandra 2 is constantly ticking up, dealing 2 more damage, 2 more damage, 2 more damage.
All right, so 2 lands, the reveal here for Ealy. I'll look at Cut to Ribbons there on your screen as well. Yeah, I mean, it is possible, Jarvis, you might be able to get him with just Cut to Ribbons and those Chandra Plus.
Yeah, it's really cool to see players bring in cards like Fight with Fire and Cut to Ribbons against the blue-white control decks, because they lean so heavily on Settle the Wreckage that you're eventually going to get enough lands to where you can play these massive spells.
All right, a pause here at the table after we see these 2 lands.
Yeah, I don't think it's Jarvis debating whether to give Ealy a plains or an irrigated farmland.
I think I see a judge here hovering over the match. It's a battle of planeswalkers here.
Yeah. Overall, I still think I like Ealy's spot a little bit more than Jarvis's. You know, Jarvis is he's pretty much grasping at straws here, putting a lot of stock into this cut to ribbons. So I think once Ealy can draw enough cards, he showed negate, he still has syncopate. I think he's in a pretty good spot here to win this game.
Is that a 6 on Teferi there, or is
I think that's a 6 currently. Yeah.
Did it to a 9?
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, more on the design of Teferi. It's just kind of one of those classic 5-mana Planeswalker formulas that we've used in the past, where it's like +1, some form of card advantage, minus some form of removal, and then some pseudo game-ending ultimate.
So when you're designing or working on the design of a Planeswalker, how long does it take usually? Is that obviously like a more involved process than a creature?
Yeah, definitely. It takes us a lot longer to, kind of find the exact numbers that we want, because, Planeswalkers take up, they take down, they take 1, they take 2. There are so many different combinations that you can work with. I think one of the coolest things for 5-mana Planeswalkers for us is deciding whether we want, the minus to be able to use it twice, to be able to use it once. One of the coolest things I remember from the Shadows over Innistrad Planeswalkers, where you could choose between Jace, Unraveler of Secrets, or Ob Nixilis Reignited. So, yeah, we're waiting on a judge call right now, but hopefully we can resolve that soon. So I was saying about, Jace, Unraveler of Secrets, he can survive 2 minuses, while Ob Nixilis can only survive 1 minus. So sometimes we like to change up whether Planeswalkers can minus twice and still be around to use more plus activations.
Ooh, there's a look.
Yeah, Jace himself. I remember registering this at Pro Tour Shadows over Innistrad. I finished a very healthy 8-8.
Excellent. Symmetrical.
Yeah, and there's Ob Nixilis Reignited. But also at that Pro Tour, Seth Manfield playing the same deck, top 8'd. He's a bit of a stronger player than me. But it was really cool to see our deck kind of perform there.
I mean, you've had some good runs at Pro Tours and things like that in the day as well.
Yeah. I've played a lot.
Pro Tour Oath of the Gatewatch.
Yep, and Pro Tour Eldritch Moon. Those were my most successful tournaments.
Awesome.
Oh, man, Sphinx to the final word. Thank you, card viewer. You know exactly what I like. So you'll notice a lot of the future kind of blue finisher designs. Most of them have my signature on them. As we see, Chromium the Mutable from M19.
Oh, I love Chromium.
Nezahal from Rivals of Ixalan. These are cards that are very near and dear to my heart. And if you have any comments on them, just tweet at me and we can talk about mono blue finishers or multicolored blue finishers, because I can talk endlessly about those.
Okay, so we've got our people down on the floor there letting us know a little bit more about what's going on with this judge call here. Jarvis is going to get a game rule violation.
Okay.
And not exactly sure for what.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. But it looks like they rewound to where Karn got activated. I think that was the only thing that happened on Ealy's turn. So,
yeah, we were backing up here. Ealy got a warning for failure to maintain.
Yeah, I'm not sure what that was for, but okay.
All right, Sorcerer's
Spyglass.
We're going to see an Abrade there and a couple of lands.
Ealy most likely going to name Chandra Torch of Defiance.
Oh, yes.
But unfortunately, it may face the fate of an Abrade here.
And indeed it does.
Sorcerer Spyglass, very funny story behind this card.
Ooh, Syncopate.
Oh, okay. So we're just learning now that Jarvis played 2 lands last turn, and that's why he got a GRV.
Okay. So yeah, Sorcerer Spyglass.
Yeah, so this one was made pretty late in the Ixalan design process. You know, we wanted kind of more answers for Planeswalkers or enchantment threats, like some of the double-face cards like Arcgul's Bloodfast. And we were past the point where we could make new art for it. So Sorcerer Spyglass was previously a Navigator's Compass-esque card for Limited, but instead we designed a top-down Spyglass that gets to negate something.
Oh, that's cool.
Oh.
All right, how about a couple of History of Benalias here from Karn for Ealy Cassis, and we are going to draw some more cards here with the Fairy.
Yeah, Ealy here just with a pretty overwhelming advantage thanks to his Planeswalkers. And I think if he has even one counterspell, the game is just locked up for him.
Right.
Which I would assume he does because, you know, he played 1 negate, he played 1 syncopate, so theoretically he has 3 more in his deck, and he has, I don't know, about 6 cards in his hand remaining, so it's pretty reasonable for us to expect that he has one.
All right, so 2 knights added to the board here for Ealy off of a pair of History of Benalias. Turn passes over to Jarvis Yu, who's going to do some cycling, but like you said, looks pretty locked up.
Yeah. And I really enjoy that Teferi untapping the Memorial to Genius.
Ah, very nice. Is it a memorial to his genius or Urza?
I am unsure.
Here's Chain Whirler from Jarvis Yu. He's going to distribute a little bit of damage.
And some -1 counters on these Knight tokens.
Yeah.
Very powerful interaction between Soulscar Mage and Goblin Chain Whirler, just being able to kind of shrink forces. And if you are unfortunate enough to also have a Winding Constrictor on the battlefield, you will receive 2 -1/-1 counters.
Ooh, all right. Let's junt him out. Some more Knights for Ealy here. We've had to move into our backup non-stained glass Knights, it looks like, from our token pile.
Yeah, they all look nice. I like the wolf that he's riding.
Oh, is he riding a wolf?
I think so.
Epic. Wow, History of Benalia number 3.
Yep. Basically, what goes great with history, more history.
Looks like Ealy Cassis is getting his history major in a pretty big way here this turn.
He's also threatening this Teferi ultimate. So, yeah, Jarvis is in some pretty dire straits here.
When does Jarvis, pack it in? Is he worried about... He's got a fast deck, so maybe he's not necessarily worried about preserving the clock.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure. I guess he's just waiting for Ealy to show him more cards, so he has more information when he's going to try and sideboard.
Rekindling Phoenix here from Jarvis.
Yeah, and I think Jarvis's last card is Abrade. I'm not sure. But yeah, he could go for, theoretically, Abrade the Spyglass, attack, and Ribbons for lethal. But looks like Ealy's going to be on the offensive here as he ultimates his Teferi and is most likely going to exile this Phoenix.
Oh, he's going to draw a couple of cards here. Memorial to Genius.
Very
Boop.
nice. Very nice.
I love it. And of course, when you're drawing cards for that Teferi ultimate, you're exiling.
Exactly.
Ooh, and there it is!
And there's the Karnstead Feral Sundering.
Awesome. Ealy Cassis taking down that game, tying things up here, 1 game apiece versus Jarvis Yu.
Yeah, and it's important to note that both of those History Benalias had their final chapter that turn,
right.
So the Knights got +4/+2.
Oh, it's a beautiful thing. And they have Vigilance. I love it. So we've got a couple other tables going on in our feature match area. One of them, by the way, appears to be a mono red player who's playing 19 different mountains.
What?
He just says there's so much good land art in Magic's history that he wanted to play as many as possible.
Well, he's not wrong. He's not wrong.
No. So if you don't, if non-matching lands gets you a little worked up, I guess he gets an edge there too.
Yeah. Yeah, at least it's not the 3 and 2 faux pas.
No.
He put in some effort, Plus, Magic's about personalization too, so I don't think you can fault anybody for playing whatever lands they want.
It is. Ealy Cassis on Team Card Hoarder.
Mm-hmm.
Put up a lot of good finishes lately with his team Noah Walker and Shaheen Sarani.
Yeah, he's been on a bit of a roll lately.
He made top 8 of the Modern event at Grand Prix Vegas.
Right, with Kark Clan Ironworks.
So hard to say the first time.
Yeah, also his deck was really cool. I remember there was a copy of the Antiquities War in it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there was.
I was seeing people playing Affinity with that card.
Yeah, it's a really interesting card that can find you more gas and provide some inevitability.
Oh, that's really cool. What do you think about that deck, by the way?
Oh, Kark Clan Ironworks?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a very efficient combo deck. It's got a lot of angles, you don't have to do it in one turn. And one of the most scary parts for me is its sideboard is so powerful too, because you can just play cards like Gearpoor Aether Grid, and you're just feeding into your regular strategy. Because I play a lot of Modern online. I like to play combo decks, Ad Nauseam Storm. Those are my favorites.
Get out of here.
But in fact, actually, the faster combo decks have a good matchup against Kark Clan Ironworks because they're normally a turn faster.
Sure. It's not exactly the fastest. Storm is, faster than 1 turn faster than Kark Clan.
Yeah, exactly. Because normally you want to play Ironworks on 4 and then try and either go off or create a overwhelming board state. But like I said, you don't have to kind of go off in 1 turn. It's not this extremely fragile beast like some of the other combo decks are. 1 duress and you lose kind of thing.
And you need a pretty high skill level to be able to pilot it as well.
Yes, definitely. I was goldfishing some Kark Clan Ironworks last night with Sam Black, and he had to explain to me multiple times at which points I could go off and which points I couldn't.
All right, so here we go. Game number 3, Jarvis U, Black-Red Aggro, Ealy Cassis, White-Blue Historic. No play yet from you. Passes back over to Ealy.
Yeah, I definitely think that's in Ealy's favor because, Jarvis is playing an aggro deck, and he has turn 1 nothing, turn 2 nothing.
Wow, take a look at this. Sorcerer's Spyglass finding a couple of Chandras.
Wow.
And is that the Eldest Reborn?
Yeah. Jarvis is getting pretty punished here for not playing the duress early because he has no answer to the Spyglass, which is just turning off both of his Chandras here. Yeah, it's really interesting to kind of figure out when to play duress because, if you want to play it turn 1, you're generally not going to have as many options, and if you wait, you can have more time for them to draw cards that you want to actually duress. But here, Jarvis is feeling the full pain of not using it immediately.
Right, so we're not only getting a look at Jarvis's hand, here's a look at Ealy's hand as well. And there's Baird, Steward of Argive in his hand. That's a pretty unique card for his build. We have a Fumigate, Teferi, Ether Meltdown.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Jarvis is going to take this Teferi here because I also, as we got to look at Jarvis's hand, he has an Eldest Reborn in it. So he can use the one of the chapters on Eldest Reborn to reanimate the Teferi.
Ooh.
Yeah. And Teferi, still pretty good in Black-Red Aggro as well.
Turns out probably good in any deck you want. You're able to make it work in. Okay, well, we did manage to find a Scrounger there on that draw step for Jarvis U.
Yep, Scrounger a pretty good threat against the blue-white deck as it is recursive.
But it is going to get an Ether Meltdown. Send it in for repairs.
Oh, wow. Jarvis.
All right, here we go.
Just going to go for the Chandra. Chandra, no activate due to the Sorcerer's Spyglass on Chandra.
I guess play it, so if you find it in a parade.
Yeah. I don't know. I kind of like that from Jarvis. He's kind of protecting himself against negate because he really wants this Eldest Reborn to resolve. And I think he drew a duress too, so it looks like all he really wants is just a land here.
And there's Baird from Ealy.
Yeah, Ealy is repping negate very hard here, which I think is something he should do.
And there's negate on duress. And Chain Whirler comes in for Jarvis U.
Yeah, Ealy really needs a counterspell here, or else this Eldest Reborn is going to be a pretty big beating.
Oh man, I'm just excited to see Teferi fighting for red-black.
Oh, is this a Karn's Temporal Sundering?
Yes,
wow,
it is.
Nice. So
all right.
He's going to bounce the Chain Whirler, attack with Baird, attack the Chandra. Okay, so he can get Chandra off the board, which means that Jarvis's Abrades aren't exactly free on the Sorcerer's Spyglass. Oh, please play another one.
Another one. Chain him. Chain him. Ah, Karn.
Right. Karn, not so bad here because this Sorcerer's Spyglass is adding to his artifact count, so these artifact tokens are going to be pretty big.
All right, so Baird able to attack again, gets rid of Chandra, makes a construct, or a Karnstruct.
Karnstruct, as I like to say.
Yes.
But another thing this construct does is that it really insulates his Baird from this Eldest Reborn here.
All right, so the construct's going to fall to the sacrifice off of Chapter 1 on the Eldest Reborn.
Oh, wow. Did Ealy draw another Karn's Temporal Sundering?
One can only hope.
That would be exciting.
Yes, it looks like he might have.
Well, he should activate his Karn first.
Okay, there we go. Settle on a plains.
Interesting spot for Jarvis. Pretty sure he should just give him the plains here. Yep. And this Scrap Heap Scrounger probably the most useless as it is right now.
Oh, yes.
Because it is a -1/2 that can't block.
All right, so here we go. Chapter 2. Discarding Fumigate.
So the reason Ealy didn't take down his Karn to 1 is because he knew that Jarvis had that Chain Whirler that he bounced to his hand.
Karn plus. Another Ether Meltdown and a land revealed.
Ooh, interesting. He didn't give Ealy the land to cycle. So I guess Jarvis is just afraid of a certain card, I guess, and is not afraid of the Ether Meltdown.
All right, Chapter 3. Here comes Teferi for Jarvis U. Black-red Teferi aggro. Never thought I'd see the day when I said that. I'm going to cycle to draw a card. There's a Soulscar Mage joining the team. And another Bomat Courier. Yeah,
so Jarvis kind of deploying as much as possible here. Since he saw Ealy discard that Fumigate, he's not exactly putting that within his range now. But we do see this Settle the Wreckage underneath Karn, which I'm assuming Ealy will take here because he really needs to... Oh, or not.
Or he's got plenty of tools in his hand already, I guess.
Yeah. It's possible that Ealy also has another Settle, given that he hasn't taken the Settle here. And he also has his backup Baird.
Two Chandras in hand. Sorcerer's Spyglass already naming Chandra, by the way.
And, oh, wow.
Nice.
Bam. Lyra Dawnbringer against the red player. And it doesn't look like Jarvis has anything to deal with it right now, as he just drew a Phoenix, which doesn't size up very well against Lyra.
That second Spyglass, naming Teferi, of course.
Yeah.
Because if you stop in one Planeswalker, why not stop the second?
Yeah, so resolving a Teferi not in Ealy's list of high list of things to do here. But yeah, this Lyra is going to just have an a huge 10-point life swing here, or a 5-point life swing as Jarvis does block with the Rekindling Phoenix. So, yeah, I definitely like Ealy's spot here. Again, just ticking up, though, which makes me believe that he just has another Settle the Wreckage in his hand.
Seal Away, History of Benalia revealed here from Karn. All just terrible for Jarvis Yu.
Yeah, and also keep in mind, Jarvis still has to pay the Baird tax every single time he wants to attack.
That's right. So do you think that's just the main purpose of Baird, making people pay the tax to slow them down enough? Plus, I mean, you get your Karn's Temporal Sundering off of it, but...
Yeah, I think that's mainly the point. It's also just a good defensive body against some of these mono red decks because, like, you know, a Braid, Lightning Strike, unable to kill it, and when you're trying to attack with creatures like Bomat Courier, Earthshaker Kenra, this is a huge roadblock.
With a great cape.
A very furry cape.
All right, here's a Glory Bringer from Jarvis Yu.
Which I'm fairly certain will meet the fate of a counterspell.
Yes, Syncopate.
Yeah, so I think this game is kind of coming down to Jarvis not casting his Duress on turn 2.
Isn't that funny? We're so far into it, and it was the first kind of decision that needed to be made.
Exactly. So Jarvis needs to pay 1 for his Bomat Courier and get a Seal Away immediately on it before the card can come underneath it.
Yep, and that is all Jarvis Yu can do this turn. Over to Ealy, once again, plussing Karn. Invoke the Divine there in a Plains.
Yeah, I kind of question bringing the Invoke here in this matchup. Jarvis really hasn't shown any artifacts that Ealy wants to kill, and the only enchantment that he would really want to go after is the Eldest Reborn.
All right, the Phoenix is going to block that Lyra swing. Ealy is going to go up to 28 life. The egg comes back. There's the Phoenix rekindling itself.
Yeah, and with Jarvis's hand of just 2 Chandras that are Spyglassed, I think his chances are dwindling with every turn.
Another Invoke and a Lyra.
Yeah, so Ealy just has backups of all of his legendaries currently. If they happen to bite the dust, then he can just redeploy a second one.
All right, we're going to gain another 5 here, up to 33.
Oh, and Jarvis attacking with this Chain Whirler pretty much telegraphs that he has another Chain Whirler in his hand. Because if Ealy were to block and then Jarvis resolve another Chain Whirler, then the Baird would die.
Yep, and there's an Aether Meltdown on the attack from the first Chain Whirler, and there is the second Chain Whirler coming in. We're going to distribute some -1/-1 counters on Baird and Lyra.
Yep, and I actually don't even mind here playing the backup Baird just to make sure that it's a 2/4.
All right, so we're going to see the same pattern we've seen for the past couple of turns here. Lyra chump block from the Phoenix. Oh, here's finally the minus from this Karn is going to put Invoke the Divine into Ealy's hand. Phoenix comes on back. Ealy can see 36 life. It's got to be a pretty big cut to ribbons, Jarvis.
Yeah.
Seal Away on the Chain Whirler there from Ealy. Here is a Glory Bringer. All right, no counter there from Ealy.
Yeah, the classic post-combat Glory Bringer.
We're going to minus Karn again to ferry into the hand and onto the board.
Teferi cannot activate, unfortunately, but he'll be there for moral support.
Oh, here we go.
Invoke the Divine on our own Spyglass on the Teferi. because it looks like Ealy is going to tuck the Teferi, I guess, because it'll go back into his library.
Yep.
So then he'll have a backup Teferi.
Nice. Nicely done from Ealy Cassis there.
Yeah. So I would classify Ealy's hand as leftovers only.
Teferi down to 1. Has gained another 4 life off that Invoke the Divine.
Jarvis kind of organizing his board here. Of note, though, this Glorybringer now can actually take down the Lyra Dawnbringer because of the -1/-1 counter on it, thanks to Soulscar Mage.
All right, another Bomat Courier. This game has been pretty absurd, actually.
Yeah. Generally, when I think of this matchup, I would imagine, like, Jarvis wins in the early game.
Test of endurance.
Exactly.
Reed has been here before, maybe.
For those who don't know, Reduke on the pulling up the cards for us to talk about. And yes, this long game truly is a test of endurance. And so we're going to see the attack here and the exert. Jarvis has to pay 4 mana for all these attackers. We got some triggers that have to go on the stack.
Okay, Glorybringer is going to shoot down Lyra.
So I guess Jarvis is debating whether to send at Teferi or not. But I think he can pretty safely send at least 3 creatures at Teferi to guarantee that it goes down.
That looks like what he's doing. 3 at Teferi, 1 at Ealy.
Because that prevents the line of Ealy blocks and then seals away one of the other attackers. Or not. Or yes.
Jarvis here kind of hemming and hawing between the decision where to send this damage. Yep. And it looks like we made the choice there to send 3 at Teferi. Baird blocks the Robot Mailman Teferi down.
And importantly of note here, Jarvis discarded his hand of Chandra's, which closes out his outs of actually drawing in a Braid for this Sorcerer Spyglass.
So Karn sitting on 1 and a Baird with a -1/-1 counter on it for Ealy. Lyra number 2 comes down. We knew he had it.
Mm-hmm. And this is actually Ealy's last copy of Lyra Dawnbringer in his deck.
I've got to say, like, Jarvis, you really is being a champ here. Like, seriously. Ealy's got just a stacked hand and a lot of cards under Karn.
And a Karn's Temporal Sundering on the stack.
Ah, Karn's Temporal Sundering. All right. Second time we've seen this resolved this game. All right, Teferi is going to go into hand and onto the table for Ealy. Tons of cards in hand. Lyra comes in. Back up to 45.
45, a pretty insurmountable number for Jarvis to kind of come back from. And given that Ealy has 6 cards in hand as well, this is looking grimmer by every single turn.
All right, History of Benalia will add a knight to the table. We're going to untap some lands. Cycle from Jarvis.
And I also see that Ealy has a Syncopate in his hand, so he's got a lot of his bases covered.
Jarvis keeps digging for something, not sure quite what. Cycle there.
Maybe the biggest cut to ribbons of his life.
Yeah. Ooh, there's a Glorybringer. On the stack. Syncopate from Cassis. Passes the turn. Cycle. End of turn.
Yeah, and Ealy's cast 2 Karn's Temporal Sunderings this game, and we know that he has 3 in his deck list, so it's very possible that one more of those can kind of lock up the game for him.
All right, Teferi's going to tuck the Flamewake Phoenix here. Seal away the Glory Bringer. All right, in comes Lyra, Knights, Knight Token, and Baird.
Yep. The Baird attacking in spirit with the team, as he's most likely going to get blocked by the Soulscar Mage or the Chain Whirler.
Jarvis Yu down to 8. There's a Spyglass.
I wonder what he'll name. I guess Bomat Courier? Let me look at his deck list here. He could also name Hazaret, but...
Ooh, it's naming Angrath.
Angrath, the Flame Chained. Gotcha.
And there is the handshake. Ealy Cassis, white-blue historic, managing to take down black-red aggro of Jarvis Yu here in round 3 of Grand Prix Pittsburgh. And we saw the power of Ealy's deck there, just able to just basically, it seemed like, shut Jarvis out from nearly the first turn of the game.
Yeah, I really think when Jarvis didn't play the Duress on turn 2, that kind of sealed his fate, since Ealy had that crucial Sorcerer's Spyglass to name the Chandra in Jarvis's hand.
And you talked about it. It's not technically an easy decision to say, I'm going to Duress you right away.
Exactly.
But in this case, yeah, it didn't turn out too well for Jarvis Yu, but well played. More Magic coming up after this. the booth, Maria Bartholdi and Andrew Brown, and we've got some Time Walk magic for you from round 3 here, so let's get right to it. Thomas Lindemann versus Adam Churnside. Favorable Jins versus blue-black mid-range. All right, I love this deck.
Yeah, me too. Although its name, come on, Maria, did you really have to come up with that as the name?
What do you want me to call it? Mono blue flyers, boring.
Maybe.
Maybe.
That's possibly more informative than favorable Jins.
I mean, they're Jins, and it's favorable wins.
I understand that.
Also, I did not name this deck, as much as I would have liked to take the credit for this. I love it. All right, so nothing here on 4 yet from Thomas. We had a cast down to deal with a Warkite Marauder. Adam Churnside going to pass turn back, but that's because we've got a flash creature here, Dreamcaller Siren.
Yeah, Dreamcaller Siren, one of the payoff pirates from Ixalan, but didn't look like Thomas had any pirates.
Another cast down here. How about a Sphinx?
How about a Glyph Keeper? Try and deal with that blue-black mid-range.
Would you like to target this? Oh, too bad.
Exactly. It also comes back. It has Embalm, so this is going to be a really powerful threat that Adam can't really deal with.
We are starting in game 3 here because we are inching closer to round number 4 here in the building. Players are tied at 1 game apiece. And there's a Bloodfast there from Adam. And favorable wins hits the table for Thomas Lindemann, and in comes the Glyph Keeper.
Yeah. And if I'm Thomas, I'm thinking, you are using Argwell's Bloodfast to lose life and draw cards?
Please.
That is totally fine with me.
All right, so we did draw a card there for Adam Churnside. Life total already down to 11. Here's a Doomfall.
Oh, wow.
So that'll do it.
Perfect answer.
Yeah. Glint Sleeve Siphoner able to get in for a little attack.
Yeah, and it looks like Adam is just leveraging this Glint Sleeve Siphoner to kind of run away with the game and draw a bunch of cards and put some pressure on Thomas.
And here is a Doomfall again for Thomas. Going to take a look at his hand.
Ooh, yeah. Looks like Thomas hasn't drawn very well, and he's kind of left with Lookout's Dispersal on another land, which in this kind of late game scenario isn't that great.
Yep. Jace's defeat there from Adam Churnside. Losing more life, drawing more cards. Champion of Wits and the Siphoner able to get in for an attack there. Liliana, Death's Majesty.
Oh, wow. Milling a Never to Return.
Not bad.
It's those little value plays like that that really make me come back to Magic every single time.
So, yeah, the army really stacking up here for Adam. Thomas able to... Oh, nice. Curious Obsession on a Nimble Obstructionist. But Adam Churnside able to take that match down in 3 games. Kind of too bad we had to see that so fast because I do love the Blue Flyers deck. Just overall, do you think that deck is something you can bring to a GP and do well with?
I wouldn't say currently, but once rotation happens, Mono Blue Jins is actually still pretty good. The Tempest Jin and Zahid are really huge flyers, and you never know what we're going to print next, so...
Ooh, all right. All right, well, we'll have more Magic coming your way. Round 4 in just a minute.